Hey guys, Marstengen here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so yesterday, during the live stream from the 8th anniversary fan meetup, we obviously got to see the reveal of the two headlining LRs. But they also showed this image, the banner, the way it appears in the game. Obviously, as we're used to with these kind of like splash page of like the banner, it doesn't show every single unit, but it shows a few of the featured units, and it is certainly looking like these upcoming banners for this anniversary have the potential to be possibly the best banners that we've had in the game so far. So I just wanted to do a quick breakdown of these units and talk about why these banners are obviously so good. Not only just for JP players, with the fact that this is obviously coming up very soon, but also this is going to be of interest to global players, because, you know, one of the big things, if you are someone who is free to play or who doesn't spend a lot, the advice that is generally given out in the community, whether it's by YouTubers or just people like in general discussing the game on Twitter, the Reddit, forums, all that kind of stuff, if you're free to play or you don't spend a lot of money, you should be saving for these big celebrations like the anniversary, the worldwide download celebration. Obviously there's going to be characters that come out throughout the year that take your interest, whether it's because it's a character that you really like or potentially because they lead a team that you really like. You know, Dokkan Fests are going to be coming out that potentially are giving a 200% lead to one of your favourite categories or something like that. But obviously if you are relying on free-to-play stones or only buying a very small amount, you have to be very smart about how you summon. So saving for these kind of things is obviously the smart way to go. So let's go ahead and take a look. So obviously, you know, we got the new unit. This SSR art, by the way, for the Vegeta and Goku is awesome. I'm pretty sure this is like new imagery for both of these. I don't remember ever seeing this particular Super Saiyan 3 Goku art before, which is pretty awesome. And the one thing we have to talk about, of course, is both banners. You can see the potential side banner unit. So here we've got Gotenks and Piccolo. And then on the GT banner we have Ice and Nova. I've always thought that there should be an Ice and Nova card, because it's a good way to have another Shadow Dragon unit, but that has a unique name. So I'm kind of surprised it's taken them this long. Although this is weirdly similar to last year's anniversary banner, where we had the LR Super Saiyan 4s and then the side banner unit was Sin Shenron. I don't know why they don't make the side banner unit like, you know, Trunks and Pan or something, right, so that it fits in with the actual headliner unit. Now, of course, this is something we can talk about later, and I will do, you know, videos of probably as we get closer towards part 2 of the anniversary. You know, hasn't even started yet, thinking ahead. But if the part 2 of the anniversary is actually going to bring extreme units, which is what a lot of us are hoping, like a Carnival LR Omega Shenron, then obviously these guys, especially if they are providing some kind of supporting role, going to be very, very useful. Whereas, of course, the Goku and Piccolo, Gotenks and Piccolo, are going to be more towards a super side. So we go to the slightly more zoomed in thing here so we can look at the wiki page. So when it comes to Gotenks and Piccolo, I wanted to talk about them very briefly. Obviously they're going to both be on the Majin Buu saga, because that's where we're taking the units from. Funnily enough, I tried to open a page for a Piccolo because I wanted to show some of the categories that these units would share, because as a joined forces unit, you have to remember the issue that they're going to have is being on categories that both characters are on. And look at this, you can scroll all the way down even to the unawakened SSRs. There are no Piccolos from the Buu saga in Dokkan. Piccolo doesn't really do a huge amount during the Buu saga, of course, but there isn't a single card that represents him from the Buu saga. So if we take a look at Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and then this is the Piccolo obviously from the Android/Cell saga, but even from this point going forwards, you have to remember, I think even the Tech Namek Goku that came out during the Worldwide Download celebration from 2021, they are all on fused fighters now. Obviously ever since Piccolo fused with Nail, every Piccolo from there is on fused fighters, and of course Gotenks being a fusion is on fused fighters. So of course they're going to have Majin Buu saga, fused fighters. It'll be interesting. Heavenly events, I mean, I guess Piccolo and Piccolo trains Gotenks on the lookout, right, in the Room of Spirit and Time as well. So I would assume Heavenly Events could be on there. Things like Entrusted Will, and I think Connected Hope, yeah, Gotenks is on. Some of these categories that like one of them is on and not the other, I feel like they could stretch that, right, to include both of them, because like Connected Hopes or Entrusted Will seems pretty relevant to have both of those, right? But things like Majin Buu Saga is going to be a definite. Join Forces. Hopefully we get a new updated 2023 quality animation of the Buu Volleyball Super Attack. I think that would look awesome. But yeah, until we really know what they do, then obviously it's hard to say whether this unit itself is going to be good. But we've seen a decent run of good side banner units. There's been the odd fumble here and there, but definitely looking forward to them. But next up on that banner, we of course have the LR Gods. So, I mean, these guys, even now at this point in the game, like recorded today, they are still good, right? They are still easily like a top 5 unit in the game, or at least top 5 LR, depending on how you want to rank it. Top 10 at the bare minimum, right? These guys are super good. I think as they have aged over the previous year, for me personally anyway, their play style has kind of changed, especially for the harder content. I remember when they first came out, people would be obsessed with trying to get as many stacks as you possibly could. And then obviously as we got harder red zone bosses and stuff, it became apparent that, you know, after turn 1 when their guard wears off, they can be in danger of taking some big damage, even from normal attacks from some of the harder bosses. So the strategy has kind of become now to just transform them as soon as you can, or well, as soon as possible. Obviously in the earlier turns, if you can get them in a slot where there's no attacks or they have type advantage, you can go for those extra stacks. But getting them transformed straight away and then picking up rainbow orbs so they get the dodge. The great thing about transforming them, and it applies to the Super Saiyan 4s as well, is they get so much defense off of their super attacks that as long as they're not in slot 1, and so they're super attacking first, their defense is going to be high enough to tank normal attacks in pretty much any event, right? Like my gods are 2 dupes, and they can tank Texel max normal attacks for double digits after they get their double super off. So still a unit that can be very relevant, still easily a top 10 even at minimum, right, unit in the game. So very good that these guys are on the banner. And then moving on to someone else who is still considered in the top 5 for like LRs. I don't know about overall units in the game, but again, top 10 minimum, is STR Cooler. So the worldwide download celebration units always return on the anniversary. This is of course a sore point for global, because the worldwide celebration is at the same time on both versions, and then the anniversary for global is 11 months later, whereas for JP it's only like 5, right? So JP gets the return of Cooler. Very good unit still. The Wicked Bloodline team, incredibly good. Global obviously now finally getting to experience the LR Golden Freezer. This guy is just absolutely crazy. Very good. Very fun unit. So him being on the banner obviously adds a huge amount of value. And then, of course, the next big thing to grace these banners is the return of the Gammas. They have not returned on a banner since they first released. A lot of people were hoping they would return on the Superhero Dual Dokkan Fest with Gohan and Piccolo. But, I mean, it hadn't been long since they were released. So, I think most people weren't surprised that they weren't on those banners. Now, again, this is another sore point for Global, because unless they decide to throw these guys on another banner in the meantime, it means Global has to wait all the way until July for these guys to come back, which is pretty tough, right? Because with all the stuff coming out at the end of 2022, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who either didn't summon on the Gammas banner, or who couldn't really afford to do too many summons, and either didn't get one or either of them. So the fact that we potentially have to wait all the way to the anniversary on Global for them to come back is definitely quite annoying. But I mean, these guys are easily among the top TURs in the game. People make arguments for Gamma 1 or 2 even being the best TUR currently. So these guys being on the banner obviously add a huge amount of value. Now, funnily enough, the GT banner gets the short end of the stick, kind of the same as last year, because when it comes to Ice and Nova, all of the Shadow Dragons are considered GT bosses, which is pretty cool. But I mean, this is a category that desperately needs some more help. It really does make me think if the side banner unit is going to be Ice and Nova, that maybe we could actually be seeing an LR Omega Shenron in the second part. Because if we look at their other categories, wow, that's really it, right? So I'm guessing the Ice is on Accelerated Battle as well, but like these are going to be their only categories plus Join Forces, unless one of the characters brings a new category that these guys end up being on. So yeah, very limited. Hopefully they are a unit that is providing support in a more generalized fashion, right? Like if they're just like GT bosses support, then that makes them incredibly limited, even though that's one of the few categories you can run them on anyway. But I think maybe if they made them, say there was a new category, and they're Join Forces as well, remember, if they gave them like all extreme allies support or something like that, that would potentially make them a little bit more useful for teams like Accelerated Battle that does have some good extreme units on it. But I think they're going to be very limited just simply by the fact that they are Shadow Dragons, which, as I say, that kind of leads me more to believe that there is going to be some kind of Omega Shenron in Part 2, because just bringing out a random Shadow Dragon side banner unit that can only really be run on those teams without bringing out any other buffs to those teams seems very, very odd to me. But you never know, I guess. They've done weirder things before, I'm sure. So obviously then we have the Super Saiyan 4s. These guys have started to feel like they've aged because compared to the gods, they haven't been getting buffs for the entire year. Like, so many movie heroes buffs have come out, it's crazy. And even the actual main unit on the other banner is going to be a buff for the gods team, because Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta will obviously be on Power Beyond Super Saiyan. So the big thing that we are all waiting to see is when we get the details of the kit for the GT-based Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta headliner card, if that unit is going to be the partner that the LR Super Saiyan 4s have always wanted. Because if that new unit is like a slot 1, super good tank, potentially like orb changing, maybe even creating rainbow orbs, because remember, pre-transformation, they get extra crit chance, and then once you fused into Gogeta, rather than getting dodge like the gods, you get damage reduction per key sphere obtained. So imagine the new unit being a rainbow orb changer. And yeah, slot 1, give them Saiyan Raw, then these guys are not necessarily going to jump up to being suddenly the next best unit in the game again, but it's going to breathe a little bit of life back into this unit. And hopefully they will see a little bit of a resurgence. I've always loved this unit. I prefer Super Saiyan 4 as a form to the God form, so I've always preferred this unit to the gods. It has two of my favourite animations in the entire game, being their unfused 18 key with the Golden Dragon Fist, and then Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's active skill. So definitely hoping that they get the partner that they deserve. I mean, they're still an incredible unit. It's just a little bit more difficult to use them than it is the gods, mainly because they have shocking speed instead of legendary power. But I mean, they're still a great unit, right? If you don't have them or you only have one copy, pulling them off this banner is definitely not going to be a bad thing. Now, the other thing about the GT banner is it's going to have the return of the AGL Super Saiyan Vegeta and Goku, which is a divisive unit. I know there are some people out there that do really like this unit. I am not a fan of them. I do not think that they are very good. During the Worldwide Celebration, I pulled one copy of them, did the 55% showcase, and then I'd seen a couple of other people's showcases of them with dupes, and I just wasn't really that impressed. And so rather than waste any more stones summoning for extra copies of them, I just kept going in on the Metal Cooler banner, ended up rainbowing Metal Cooler before the end of the celebration. So on the one hand, I would like to see what they do with more dupes, but the biggest problem that this unit has is you got to perform 3 or more super attacks, which isn't very difficult, and receive 7 or more attacks. And even though they have a little bit of damage reduction, they're not a good slot 1 unit. So what often happens is you put them in slot 2 so they can get their super attacks off and raise their defense, but most of the attacks for the turn are in slot 1. So it becomes very difficult to get this build up. Once they actually do get the morale boost, like transformation, the unit becomes much better. It's just you don't very often get to see this. So from personal experience at 55%, I've never been a huge fan of this unit. But, I mean, they're definitely not terrible, right? They're still a solid unit, but I've never been a huge fan. Maybe more dupes than them could change my mind. But I guess it is what it is, right? And then, of course, Gamma 2 is on their banner, who, as we said with Gamma 1, some people argue that Gamma 2 is the best TUR. Obviously, he's very good. Now, this is something that we're going to probably see going forward now, that these two are going to be split between dual Dokkan Fests. I think the chances of them ever returning on any other banner, where it's like a normal filler Dokkan Fest, and then both of them are on there, are quite unlikely. Unless we see a release of more superhero stuff, maybe, and they put them on there to fit the theme. So that's something that we potentially will have to get used to going forward, that these guys are going to be on separate banners. So for me personally, I've only got one dupe of Gamma 2, whereas I have two dupes of Gamma 1. So, you know, I would like to pull the extra copy of him. But I mean, overall, the GT banner definitely looking weaker than the Majin Buu Saga one. Unless you can, I mean, even if you consider Gamma 2 to be better than Gamma 1, you know, it's not by a huge margin, but Cooler is much better than the Goku and Vegeta. The Gods arguably better than the Super Saiyan 4s, at least the way the current meta stands. The interesting thing will be to see, of course, how good the Piccolo and Gotenks are. But there you go. These are going to be the two banners. I personally think the way it looks like right now, I think most people's instant reaction is that these are potentially the best banners that have ever been in the game. Which, you know, the anniversary usually has very strong banners. Now, for global players, you know, we've got a long time to wait, 6 months pretty much, until this comes to global. So the plan should be for most people to save until this comes out. The only things that will come up along the way to tempt you is the fact that we have Saiyan Day, which is on both versions at the same time. So obviously we have no idea what that is yet. And then Golden Week, which is another shared celebration. Obviously, last year it was Goku and Cell for, well, Goku and Gohan and Cell for Golden Week, and Majin Vegeta for Saiyan Day. And then, of course, these guys coming in July. And remember, for Global, unless they randomly decide not to do it for the first time in years, which I think is unlikely, Global gets free tickets during the anniversary as well, where you get 3 tickets per multi-summon that you actually pay stones for, right? You don't get any from doing the free multi when it's a 3+1, but you're able to get a bunch of free tickets to get a bunch of extra free summons. So for Global, these banners are definitely worth saving for. When you think about the stuff that we have coming up soon, like Kid Goku is very, very good. And if he fits on a team, you probably want to run him. But is he a must summon? I don't know. Probably not. And then like Bardock is a fun unit. I love Bardock personally, you guys know this, but as an actual unit to summon for, he's probably an easy skip for a lot of people. Same with Yamcha and then the STR Carnival Goku. The interesting thing will be, of course, as well, remember that JP always gets a Dokkan Fest right after the end of the anniversary, that Global then gets right before the anniversary instead, which last year was Captain Ginyu. So that's going to be another thing that's going to come out right before the anniversary that we still, at this time, have no idea what that's going to be. So there's a lot of stuff on the horizon, but these are looking like the best banners that have ever been in the game. So definitely worth saving for if you are a free-to-play or someone who does not spend a lot. So let me know what you guys think. Which banner do you prefer? Which unit do you prefer out of the two new ones? And are you going to be going all in as a global player? Are you going to be saving all of your stones? Are there still a few things you want to summon for? Let me know all of that down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.